Hey, CoupleyFit fam. Welcome to another episode of the CoupleyFit podcast. We are your hosts, Kurt and Deanna Mangum II. We're going to be talking all things health, marriage, and mindset. But on this episode, we are actually celebrating 8 years of CoupleyFit. We started just 3 months after our wedding, so we're going to get into all the tea. We are going to get into the highs and the lows, and ultimately how we got here today.
It's been an incredible journey. I would say I wouldn't have wanted to do this with anybody other than
Agreed.
you. Just because I know how we get along and how we can do anything together, because just entrepreneurship in general is not for the faint-hearted. If you're starting a business or trying a business, just know, stay in the game. If you're dealing with challenges, that's normal. You don't know it all. A lot of things how much did we learn on the way?
I would say probably at least 60 to 70% on the way. But a lot of times just getting started. And sometimes that's the hardest because you're dealing with the thoughts that, should I be doing this? Am I good enough to do this? There's a worthiness component to it. You don't know what you don't know. So a lot of times you are just trying to figure it out as you go, which is why it is so important to have some sort of mentor, even if that's in life or that is preferably in business, if that's something that you want to start. To have somebody that's already been there and that can help you navigate that situation is fantastic. I think for us, though, we didn't really have a mentor. We just were kind of going off of each other and each other's strengths. And I think that's one thing we learned very early on and more so when we started the business, is we learned that we have different strengths than what we have in our relationship.
Gallup strength
the
test.
Gallup strength test.
Colby index was another one you mentioned.
Index, we did that as well.
A lot of those made a huge difference. But that also is, I'm thinking of that was as we got into the business.
Correct.
And got started. Let's give
go back
all of our viewers a little background. So I'm thinking back to the night we met, New Year's Eve.
Yes.
In the club, Red Revolver, Scottsdale, bottles popping, nightclub is jumping.
Poppin'.
It's lit. Love in this club. For some reason.
Love in this club.
In the club. That's what it comes back to.
Yes.
But it wasn't the fairy tale that most people would think of, you meet in a club, we kissed at midnight, happily ever after. It wasn't that. Interesting enough, I really thought that she flaked on me. I'm going to tell y'all what happened. So, first off, I'm going to let you tell the story on how we met.
So you want me to tell the truth? Gotcha. Okay, let me do that.
We're going to get two versions. So y'all about to get two versions of what happened?
I have the actual truth. So listen to me, y'all.
Go ahead.
So we met New Year's Eve. I was already out with my girls. We were at another club before that. And obviously, you're having some libations. You're enjoying yourself. I was 22. I just turned 22 that October. I think you were 23. And went to the
nightclub
in Scottsdale. And if you know, that was the club, especially those two booths in the back. Yes, by the bathroom, you already know what it was. So we were there at another table, which you can't wait to say you got me from Gen Pop. We were at another table.
What does Gen Pop mean? Just for those that are listening.
General population. That's just, you're on the dance floor, which nothing wrong with that, okay? You can still have a great time.
So you're saying it's in question whether or not I brought you to the VIP area, past the red rope?
Well, first off, I was already at another VIP area, so I just went from one to the other.
Did I see you in that VIP area, or did I see you in general population? That's my only question for the people.
Doesn't matter. Okay. So after that, one of my girls was like, "Hey, I have somebody that is at the back two tables, which, if you know, those are the largest tables at the club. Those are usually where the athletes and entertainers and those things are." She's like, "Come with me," because girls, we travel in packs. I said, let's do it. So we're going through Gen Pop, and I literally, we get to the stairs where you get to go up to the two booths, and she just leaves me. I mean, she just dips and she just goes. And so I'm sitting here inebriated. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to stay here and wait for her. I'm looking, okay, she's not looking back for me. So I guess my song comes on. So I'm going to start dancing. So I start dancing. I'm getting it. And then I get a tap on the shoulder. I look over, and it's a gentleman that is standing because I don't even think you tapped me. That's the thing. I think you had the security guard tap me.
I might have done.
Yeah, you try to be big baller. See, you try to be.
I was feeling
and I
myself.
don't like that. Like if you have something to say, you come and say it to me.
And I will say, I don't send. I'm not the type of person that sends someone to speak for me or to like get your attention. I do genuinely think, and that's why I remember the general population, because I actually don't think I could get to you. I think he had to.
Oh my gosh! I can't believe you. I can't believe you, y'all. I can't. I can't.
I think the
Anyways,
security guard was helping me out.
let me continue the story. So I get a tap on the shoulder and I look over and you say to me, like you lean over the railing, you say to me, you're like, hey, do you want a drink? I'm like, yep, sure do. So I go up there with you and we're just talking. I remember we were just talking. It was so easy. I do remember that. I remember it being really easy to talk to you. You were like, yeah, so, basically what are you up to? I was like, oh, I'm about to, I'm just graduated from college. I'm so excited. I'm about to go get my master's degree. And you were really excited about that. And you were talking about how you're getting ready for the draft and those things. But I remember the whole time, do you remember? I'm just squeezing his arms. I was like, ooh, he's buff. I like that. I like that. So I'm squeezing it the whole time. And we were just chatting. And then the club ended. And if you knew, this was back in 2013. So Blackberries were popping. Like if you had the Blackberry where you was like, BBM, if you know, you know, BBM was going off. So we exchanged numbers and I was leaving with my girls. We're on the cart, the guy that he rides the bike in the front. There's 6 girls in the back. We've got to go from downtown Scottsdale to Hayden and Indian School. So I felt bad for him. So he's pushing. But meanwhile, the way that I'm kind of like laying on top of the girls. The Blackberry falls, hits the street, and just shatters. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So then next day, go to T-Mobile. I get a new phone, and I get a text message from a guy named Kurt. I'm like, who's Kurt? First off, it sounds like not somebody I talk to. Like, who's Kurt?
You know too many brothers named Kurt?
I don't know too many brothers named Kurt. So then I said, okay, well, let me just go back. I was like, I really don't know who this person is. We were literally talking for 2 weeks and I had no idea who you were. But I'm like, if I gave my number to somebody and I didn't give you a fake number, then I'm interested. So I was like, okay, just going back and forth. Then I had my friend who I was living with at the time. She is a real one. Ladies, we all have that one who is a sleuth. She said, give me his first name, give me his phone number, and give me like one more piece of information. I'm going to find everything on him. I said, girl, got it. Boom, boom, boom. So then he told me that he was a football player. Just me being in sports, like I'm just not going to date anyone that is mediocre in a sport. That's not what I'm going to do. I looked at your highlight tapes. I looked at your transcripts. No joke. I looked at your transcripts. Cause again, cause you were like, oh, I graduated magna cum laude. I'm like, okay, like, did you though? And you did. 3.7 GPA. Found that on Facebook. And then I also found you were at Howard University, University of Washington. I'm looking at all of your stats. I was like, oh, okay, so he's a baller. Like, he's actually good. Okay, we can make this work. We can make this work. And it took 5, maybe 6 months for us to have our first date?
Longer than that, probably like 6 months, at least 6 months.
At least 6 months. At least 6 months. But we were always just sending each other things. I remember one of the first things you sent, well, first off, the photos. Oh my gosh. Like, when guys are dating, and women too, I had some photos. So when you have like your shots where it's like, if somebody asks for a photo, these are the ones I'm going to send.
This is the one.
He had 3 or 4 like back to back to back to back. And I remember saying I remember when I was at CJ and I was a server at the time. And I said to my manager, I was like, girl, the photos, like I can't, is he into himself? Is this arrogance? What is this? She's like, girl, it's confidence. I'm like, is it though? I don't know if that's a little bit too much. I'm not sure. So then we were just sending each other, you sent me a World Star video and some Vine comps. And if you know about Vine. And it was just very easy. Like we really started like a friendship, truthfully, in those 6 months. And then we went on our first date to Dave & Buster's. So that's that's the truth. And then let Kurt go ahead and tell whatever he's going to say.
So no, I mean, everything that you said happened. So all of that was true. there's just a different vantage point from where I'm coming from of like how I saw some
Okay.
of those things.
I'm
Which
here for it.
pretty much everything you said about the club, I will say, for me, being at the club that night and then texting you. First off, follow-up game is strong. So
Right.
fellas, if you out here and you trying to figure it out, if you got somebody's phone number, you got to do the follow-up. Nice to meet you, right? Look forward to chatting with you. And that was what I did. What to me was just devastating was sending the follow-up text. It was great to meet you, and getting the Kurt, who is this?
Who's this?
Immediately,
That
my
hit the
mind
ego. That hit the
immediately
ego.
my mind went to, well, damn, how many people did she give her number to last night? Like, did she give her number out like to 3 to 4 guys? And she
It's
doesn't
New
know,
Year's
like,
Eve.
she doesn't know
The
who I
libations
am.
were
I'm
flowing, y'all.
like, this is crazy. So she's saying I'm sending all these pictures. I'm trying to make sure she remembers what I look like. I'm like, it was dark in the club. Clearly, she didn't really remember me. I'm like, dang, she doesn't know what I look like. Like, side, I'm hitting her with different angles, side profile.
Hey, you did,
Fr-
Caesar.
Fresh Caesar haircut.
Fresh Caesar.
Check the waves. Come on, button down.
Hey now.
South Beach. I'm sending all my favorite shots. Like, hey, you don't remember me? So that answers the picture. So that was in my defense there. Secondly, you did do your recon because she didn't believe that I was like a scholar athlete, right? Like, she just didn't believe it, which I understand. It's like most people.
Well, people are. I mean, you're in the club. People are hyping up all the time.
Yeah. And everybody says that they're an athlete, which is why it was hard that night for me to not say that I was a football player or with athletes, because shout out to Beanie. I was with Beanie Wells, former running back for the Cardinals, but we were out together that night. And so naturally, you're having a good time, you're out and about, but I'm so glad that we met. And it was like full circle because I didn't see you again until 5 months later. But we're doing the social media back and forth. I'm liking all the pictures on Instagram. And this is like earlier Instagram.
Early.
Like, no, there's no professional pics at this time. Everybody's got the weird
It's
filters.
All, you see weird filters?
Weird
All
filters,
of that.
like the yellow filter, whole
my
grid looks
gosh.
kind of funny.
Oh my gosh.
So it was like early times. But I remember following you. I remember being really impressed with, one, you were just graduating from ASU. I was impressed with the fact that just your vibe, like you were locked in, you were working, just like things like that. You were also a go-getter, and you can like feel that energy. And so for me, that was always really big. And then I didn't even realize that I was getting ready to go through like one of the biggest storms of my life when we were meeting, because I'm meeting you and you're like, oh, his career is getting started. And I remember you vividly saying, like, I'm not trying to date an athlete. And for me,
Period.
I'm persistent. I know your dad was an athlete too, right?
Well, yeah,
Football.
that's
Mom
one
was an
reason.
athlete. So like there's reasons that you have, like, I'm good on that. And so I'm like, yeah, right. Like, no, we're going to push past that. I don't want to date an athlete thing, but it's kind of persistence. That is one thing I did have. Persistence for sure. Be persuasive, be persistent. The 2 P's.
2 P's.
The two. I just tell people
Ps.
that. The 2 P's. Persuasive and persistence can overcome a lot. But I remember being like, man, it's crazy because my football career ended when it was literally getting ready to take off at its peak. And so that time was kind of crazy for me because I was going through different struggles and challenges of just like, one, trying to continue to play football. For those that don't know, my NFL pro day. So after college, you kind of touched on some of it, but went to grad school, University of Akron. I just got back home from University of Akron. So I was still enrolled in grad school, but I was home getting ready for my pro day and for like working out NFL pro day in front of all of the scouts at my college. And, team captain, defense MVP, all of this stuff. So it's like there was an article in the Arizona newspaper and it said 3 players from Chandler High School are going to get drafted this year. Deion Jordan, Mark Anthony, Kurt Mangum. I'm like, yeah, like this is what I've worked for my entire life, like naming lights. I'm hearing from teams, talking to different teams, and go out on my NFL pro day and I tear my hamstring in front of 13 NFL teams. And I'll have to say that moment was a low moment, but like what followed after that was probably like my lowest, like that was the only time I probably say that like I've been in a room that's like completely dark and I've just stayed in there for like 2 or 3 days, like barely ate. Like it was like the world was ending, you know what I mean?
Like
in a way.
mild depression.
Yeah, that's literally what it was. And I'd never like dealt with that because for me, it's like, I'm going to create the energy. I'm going to be more positive. But it was so like shakening for me to see like it's so close. And leading up to the injury, I had played in 2 like all-star games, NFLPA games, stuff like that. But I'm just so glad that we were able to connect when we did, the timing, because also when we think about CoupleyFit and like where things went, a lot of it was like the foundational stuff of you like preparing my meals. Because after the injury, you're helping me get back. So like preparing my meals, us going and working out together. I'm seeing your work ethic in the gym and like the fact that you train. And I'm like, what? She doing the same workout as me? Maybe not the same weight, but like training. And there's dudes in the gym looking at her like, yo, she's really, you know, she got 185 on the squat rack running it for reps. Like, this is crazy work. And so
Powerlifter genes.
Powerlifter genes. So it started to unlock like this connection for us of like the health, getting back in it, the health, the wellness, but also even the mindset of like, again, you're dating somebody. You also I wanted to present myself like the best that I can. I want to be like, you know, that candidate, just like anybody wants to, right? Like I want to be a great partner, a great person to be with. And it's like, I need to like figure out where I'm going and what I'm doing and what's next. And I feel like that was like CoupleyFit's such a big part of that, because it allowed me to also stay in our passion, and my passion of health and wellness is something that we've been so drawn to.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. And it was interesting because at that time I was still in food and beverage. I already graduated, but I started in food and beverage because it's fast money. Like I know if I work today, I'm going to make money today.
Hold on. We can't just say food and beverage though. You got to tell them about the grind. So you're working at ASU full time.
Yeah.
How old were you when you started working at CJ?
I was technically 17. I've been working since 15.
Wow.
But so 17, started working there and started off as a host, and then worked my way up to lead host, then worked my way up to server. Then I became a lead server and then a trainer server. So I was able to go and like actually open up other stores and things like that. So I was working full time, going to school full time, and I lived on my own too for most of my college career. And then interesting enough, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, gosh, okay, so this food and beverage thing is not working for me. Because when you just talked about kind of like a mild depression, I went through about 3 months where I was in a depressive episode. And I was just, every day felt mundane. Every day felt, I don't want to be here. Every day felt just, what is my next step? And for me, I was like, well, I want to help women. I want to be able to help women not only feel better, but then also I wanted to help them with their nutrition. I wanted to help them with, you know, whether it's their physique or, you know, kind of anything they wanted to work on there. So I was actually looking at starting my own business called CoupleyFit. And then somebody randomly said to us, they said, well, why don't you guys just go in business together? I mean, you guys work out together. You guys are, you prep all of his meals and I'm weighing all of your food. Like it's that prepped where it's 6 ounces or 8 ounces of a protein. And then I have my carbohydrates for a half cup. Like it was that intense. And then we were also documenting though on social media too though. We always, Snapchat. That was our thing. So we were documenting on Snapchat of just us working out together and eating. And people used to DM us and be like, hey, you know, do you guys do custom meal plans? Do you guys do workouts? And we're like, no, we don't do any of that. Yeah. And it just continued to evolve as more and more people started asking us. We're like, well, shoot, maybe we should do this. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. And to that point, like you mentioned food and beverage, but that was another thing that we ended up having in common because you spent 10 years, you know, working at Claim Jumper, doing those things with like the Landry, you know, company and all of that. But then for me, I ended up falling back, knew nothing about food and beverage.
Right.
But when I got injured, falling back and helping a family business in Phoenix Sky Harbor's airport, run a cafe, coffee shop, and I knew nothing about food and beverage, but we both were going through this similar grind of one, you're serving people.
Yeah.
Which that's a whole another episode.
Not for the faint-hearted.
Not for the faint-hearted. Two, the customer service and just like it's all about the customer and the people, which that's something that we both like definitely resonates. But then also just the hustle and the grind. Like if anybody's ever been a server, like your base wage is not great. No, and yours was much worse than mine. Like yours was even worse.
Mine was, so back then, and Arizona's a right to work state too. So they always used to say to us, well, we don't have to pay you. And like when we would have meetings and things like that, they would tell us not to clock in because this is a right to work state. We don't have to pay you for this. And just being able to deal with different types of people, which helped us a lot with CoupleyFit because we can talk to anybody, really. Like we've learned through food and beverage, customer service, also us both being servant leaders. Naturally, we want to serve, but not literally serve.
Not literally, though.
Like, oh, you want some extra ranch? Okay, let me go get that.
Hurry to get my coffee.
Yeah, hurry up and go get it. Like, and people are just have
me.
Yeah. So back to the wage though, I was getting $3.50 an hour.
Wow.
$3.50 an hour. So when you hear people say like, I live off of tips, I lived off of tips. If I didn't get, I was always getting 20%. If I did not get 20% on a table, I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay my bills? And I was a budgeter. So I'm going to budget every single thing out. I know how much I need to make every single day in order to make sure that I'm paying my bills, living on my own, going to school full time, also paying for school, and everything that comes with it. I mean, it's you learn to be resilient, you learn to be persistent, which both come in handy when you start a business.
Yeah, and I was super impressed. Like, you were you had your own place, your own car, full-time job, just graduated from school. You're doing all of this on your own, and like you're beautiful inside and out. And there's so many people, seriously, and there's so many people. And I'm saying this, and I'm glad we're telling this story, because when people think about business, what you're doing now as a co-founder, but there's so many people that lean on, like, don't want to put in the work. Like, right. Men, women, just in general, right? Where it's like, I want to either hand it to me, or like, I want it to be an easier path, or like, I don't want to put in those 40, 50-hour weeks or those 10-hour days. But like, I legit remember you coming back with, the country fried gravy on your apron. And like, I remember us, like, me pulling up, like, we were dating, but like me pulling up and you're like, yo, I just got off work, but like I legit smell like country fried gravy and like ranch.
That was, you remember In-N-Out? That was In-N-Out. That's where we made our handshake too.
We did make our handshake. Made our handshake at In-N-Out. And just was like, but that's where it was all for us, relationship and a part of us even starting a business, us being best friends, us being able to spend quality time together. We were always able to like bounce ideas. It always felt like no matter what we were doing, even if, because as we think about the journey and go through the years, there were things that we did that were like, ooh, how do we end up doing this? Like, what's going on here? But we always found a way together, because you're working with it's almost like if you're working with the right people or the right person, or like you're paired with the right person, you can get through anything. And I feel like our example with CoupleyFit in our business is exactly that. And like, even how it was birthed, it wasn't like, because you mentioned Pretty Fit and wanting to start a business. For me, I wasn't even thinking about starting a business. I was trying to get back into the NFL and going through that journey. But it's crazy how your experiences that you go through, a lot of times your audience or people will indicate like what you should be doing, or what you should maybe be doing
like
more
the frequently asked questions.
Correct. So like, a lot of times people are like, well, how do I know what my niche is, or like what I'm passionate about, or like getting into my purpose? Sometimes it's like, well, yes, what do you enjoy? But also like, what are people asking you about? And so for us, like you mentioned, weighing my food out and the prep. I remember walking Sky Harbor's like trail in addition to the work, because I'm working at a cafe and I'm making $8.25 an hour, family business, but they didn't want it to be any nepotism. So it's like, you got to start at the bottom and work your way up. I'm like, I got a bachelor's, I got a master's, I'm making $8.25. Like, this is not luxurious. I did not have my own place at the time. I didn't have all the things that you had going on. I'm like trying to figure it out. But I think about the fact of like, it prepared us for starting a business, for the adjustments, the struggles, the highs, the lows together. But we literally started just within our current environment of what we did by letting people that we knew know, like, hey, we're starting a business, CoupleyFit, we're at the park, which it's always like, when I think about our start and like the first phase of CoupleyFit, it's such a great reminder for people to just get started, because people see like, oh my gosh, like you guys have done this, you won these awards and you're on this big stage and you're doing, and it's like, we literally started at Kiwanis Park in Tempe. Shout out to Kiwanis Park in Tempe. But like, we didn't even have, and this is not saying that this is the approach that other people have to go, but we didn't even go the formal route of like reserving space, getting a permit. We didn't have money for that.
Up at our table.
Man, listen, we have balloons.
Look for the balloons. That's how you know where we're at.
Red balloons.
That's how you know where we're at. But interesting enough, so we started CoupleyFit 3 months after our marriage. That's when we realized like, okay, everyone's asking us about health and wellness. Yeah. They're seeing us on social media. So let's do something. And then we were on our black leather couch when we were living in South Phoenix, and we were just coming up with ideas. We were like, okay, couples fitness, CoupleyFit. That's it. And we were talking to one of our good friends, Sierra. She is an OG. Like, she is, man, Love her to death. And she's like, that's it. You guys got it. That's it. Now start. And so how we knew how to start was, okay, people are looking for personal training. They're looking for boot camps. That's what people resonate with. So we're like, okay,
that's
boom,
fitness.
That's fitness. So let's do that. So we started there. And at that time, I think I was getting certified in nutrition and wellness. Yeah. So I didn't have it yet, but I knew that was going to be the route that we were going to go. And so that was 2016. And that was really just preparing us and getting, you have to get all of your licenses. You need to get your insurance, like really setting your business up. And then in 2017, March of 2017, that's when we went official on IG. So that's how, that's when you start, is when you go official on IG. So we went, that was in 2017. And so 2017, we're doing the boot camps at Kiwanis Park. We're doing... And
hold on, let people know how much we were charging for the boot camps now. People, this wasn't we weren't making...
I think it was like $15 a person, two people for $25, right?
It was cheaper than that. It was
$10?
cheaper than that. It was almost like you bring somebody, they almost work out free.
Yeah, it was. In the beginning, it was.
In the beginning, it was like sometimes we just wanted somebody to pull up. We like, damn, we just don't want to come out here, set up, be out here for an hour and nobody show.
We'd set up and we even had merchandise. Like shout out to Quez.
Logo and our merch.
Yeah, so the logo that
Hustle
you see,
Vision.
the CoupleyFit logo. Yeah, so that's Quez Wheaton, and he did a really great job. And then we had merchandise. Like we were having merch. We had, I think we had a quick collab. Our first collab ever was with Quest Bar. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Yes, it was with Quest Bar. So we used to have the Quest Bars out there so everyone can get their protein
Tank
afterwards.
tops.
We would have water, take off, like the Fry's logo, put our own
logo on all the waters.
Logo on
We're
it.
at home taping the waters.
We're taping the waters, and we made wristbands. Remember that? Yeah. We made wristbands. Like we knew that if we want to do this, we're going to do it big. We don't do anything that's mediocre. Like if we're going to do it, we're going to do it. And that was so that's 2017 was heavy on the boot camps.
And content was key.
That's one thing we always knew, especially growing up with, because Instagram came out when we were in college. Yeah.
I remember being a trainer at Howard University, and I think I posted my first IG pic. It was like Arizona iced tea, like in the training room. Like I was like, this is it.
But we had MySpace before that. If you know MySpace.
Friend, was it Friend Top 8?
Yes, Top 8. Shout out to Tom. Tom was always everyone's first. He's your first friend.
I was like, who's this guy? Who's this guy? I don't know him. I don't know this guy.
So so that's when we always knew social media. You have to have high quality content. And it wasn't what it is today where everyone's getting this, everyone's have the Nikon cameras and we have professional teams coming in. No, it was literally just us knowing that this is going to be the next wave. And then we employed our friends. Like, remember we had, I don't know if we had Take Two at the time though.
So he was making, we had Take Two was our DJ making playlists.
Yes.
We had Mike,
MJD Photography. He was our photographer. We had Charles drone
footage.
That was over our boot camp.
And this is at Kiwanis Park. This is at
Kiwanis Park.
But we had the drone out there showing you this is a sizzle of what the boot camp looks like.
But speaking of sizzle though, I'm the one that's cutting up an iMovie. The sizzle. I don't know. I know nothing about iMovie. My degree was in psychology. Okay. I know nothing about editing. I'm cutting everything up because you're still full-time. Well, we're both still full-time. We both didn't leave until 2018. So that also lets you know we don't recommend starting a business and quitting your full-time job.
No.
I do not do that.
Do not do it.
Do not do that.
Even if you have initial funding and someone's like, hey, I'm going to give you, family's going to give you money, which wasn't our case.
Right.
But especially if you're funding yourself and you're bootstrapping, and I'm going to cut you off, but you definitely don't want to be in a situation where now you're solely reliant because
it takes time to build a brand.
Correct.
And that's what you're doing. And even if it's you personally, you are a brand, but we were building a brand together and it takes time.
Yep.
So we were both still working our full-time jobs. We were also doing CoupleyFit, or I was doing CoupleyFit full-time and you were part-time there. And it was...
But what does that look like? I just wanted to working full-time jobs. That means
I was working 3.
That's what I'm saying.
3 jobs and then 2 jobs. 2 jobs and then CoupleyFit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, for most people to think of, like, it's not luxurious. It was us working our full-time job, being like dog tired, looking at each other and being like, damn, we have to drive. Because we went from Kiwanis Park, Arizona's too hot. So it got to the point during the time of year where it's like, people aren't going to work out in 120 degrees. So now we transitioned into a gym, renting a facility in Mesa. And renting a facility in Mesa. So that was a whole nother commute, because now we're going from Chandler to Mesa, which was a little bit farther. And it's like a couple nights a week. We had like weekday, Tuesdays, Thursdays. Then we had Saturday. And it was times where we were like, yo, I'm not interested in going to host this boot camp at all. Like, I'd love to get my workout in, but I don't want to go and like host this boot camp. But it was just a part of like us really doing brand building, and also feeling like, how do we meet people where they're at?
Exactly. And so when we had the gym in Mesa, we were able to do, I think we did did we do 4 classes a week? We had Monday was the
6.
booty blast.
I want to say 6, because it was
and bicep blast.
Typically did a double 2 hours, 3 days a week.
Yeah, I think that was Friday and Saturday. We did like 2 hours back to back. But then what we also had, which is how we kind of expanded CoupleyFit, is I would set up our merchandise that we had. So we had CoupleyFit hats, we had leggings, we had sports bras, we had tank tops, and so the matching, whenever you guys see us matching, that's why it started there, really, because we would have matching tank tops with the CoupleyFit logo, hats, everything started there. But then people started asking us about nutrition. Hey, nutrition, what should I do? And so that's when I was certified in nutrition and wellness at that time. So then I started creating the custom meal plans. People started asking you, because they saw your biceps, they said, hey, I need some custom fitness. I need a custom fitness plan. So you were creating those. And then we were able to meet somebody. I don't know how we met our meal delivery carrier.
Yeah, so we ended up getting connected with somebody through, like, somebody I knew through high school.
Camp, right?
You know, somebody I knew from high school that was like, hey, working with somebody, they're in the meal prep space. They've got like this amazing
restaurant,
Mediterranean restaurant. They can do delivery. We're like, oh my gosh. We love Mediterranean.
Everyone's asking us for meals.
Everybody's asking.
Going back to the FAQs we were talking about before.
We didn't want to have to create our own meal prep company or, you know, get a kitchen, because we were already technically overextending by having the rent, the overhead, and the things to continue to do these boot camps. But we're like, we want to serve and meet people where they're at with the meals. And so that was our revenue jumped like 120%.
I think one quarter we jumped like 80% revenue.
80% revenue
just by
jump.
having the meal delivery.
But what we learned, it's so important who you partner with in those elements, because there were just aspects that what we realized, and this is like, it counts for our relationship personally, and when we think about business professionally, we never really had an issue where like we weren't getting on the same page, or, you know, you could argue or disagree on something, but like we're on the same page. Yeah. But what we really found that was a challenge was relying on other people. And it's so important to make sure you have the right people in the right seats, because we essentially found like, wait a minute, like we're vested not just in doing the boot camps and doing the things that we're doing, but also like if we're recommending somebody and they're doing the meals, like it's got to be on time. Delivery's got to be prompt. We had drivers, like we literally were doing meal delivery all across Arizona with these Mediterranean meals. And so we had some challenges there, just of some inconsistencies. And sometimes like people's personal life can, you know, cross over into the business side. And we just saw like, you know, there was a scenario, just to give an example, where like literally the partner went 0 dark 30 on us. So like, just imagine you have your business.
I had to reach out to his wife.
I mean, you just imagine
said,
you
"Hi, where's your husband?"
Yeah, like what's going on? You have your business and people are like waiting on a delivery. We just think about like some waiting.
And we've already collected money. I was creating meal plans where you would let me know if you want to maintain your weight, gain weight, lose weight, right? And then I'm making your meals based off of that. So everyone's already prepaid. They're waiting for their meals. This is my meal prep for the week. And so when he's not answering the phone, we were saying to ourselves, okay, so we need to make a change here, because he's not going to be the one for us. And we did end up making a change. But interesting enough, as we're going through all of this is how we came up with our philosophy SWAN.
Yes.
So what we noticed was when we were doing the boot camps, meal delivery, everything, like full service, we noticed that if people were going through something emotionally, spiritually, mentally, outside of what they're doing physically, it would affect them physically. Yeah. And so we said, you know what? We've got to do something and think of something where we can make physical health easy for everyone to be able to do if they don't necessarily come to the boot camps. And so what we always used to promote was, hey, you guys need to sleep. You need to rest. Your body has to recover. Us both being athletes, that was something we've naturally do. Yeah. The other thing was water. You have to be drinking water. Like we said before, we would have our waters with our logos on it. So you would have water if you come in. Activity, that's why you're coming to the boot camps. You're coming here to get active. And lastly was nutrition, was when we were doing the meal delivery service. So we're thinking, we're like, okay, what are we going to call it? So then we said, well, what about SWAN? And you came up with SWAN, actually. Do you remember that?
Do.
Yeah, we were sitting at the table and you came up with SWAN.
And all of it, we still have this kitchen table, which lets you know. We
still have this kitchen table.
It's time for us to, we're going to be upgrading the kitchen table, but we still have that table. And we were literally writing down, brainstorming.
Yes.
Many nights, it's like 2 a.m. and we're like working and we're just at the table and we're brainstorming ideas and rolling things out.
Maybe not 2 a.m. You can't stay up that long.
That's true. There were a couple late nights.
I'm up till 2, 3 a.m.
I'm up closer to 5.
So then we came up with SWAN and we're like, oh my gosh. And we started looking it up. It means transformation. And then SWAN's mate for life. And then also we always used to tell people 2 can do it. That's another one of our philosophies is if you have a partner that can hold you accountable, that you have a connection to, that's going to motivate you, you're more likely to continue down your physical journey, your mental, emotional, or spiritual health. And that was the other thing too, is we realized it was a whole person approach that we were doing. We just didn't have a name for it. So SWAN was like our physical name for it. And then our 2 can do it was our overall driver for SWAN.
100%. And to your point, creating now a philosophy and what we did, which is really unique because it's a reminder for people that you don't have to feel like what your today has to be your tomorrow. Because for us, we weren't personal trainers. No. We didn't want to be personal trainers. I love to work out. I love doing my own bicep workouts. Right. But like, I don't want to have to be responsible for somebody else's goals, right? Per se, right? And all of these other things. But it was a part of the journey. And so we learned so much doing it. We don't regret it by any means. But we knew like coming away from a boot camp or driving home in a car, we're like, man, we're glad that that's over. Yeah. We're drained, like, the setup, the breakdown. We knew it just wasn't something that brought us joy to where we wanted to do that every day. And so we were also looking for that of like, yes, we want it to be profitable. We want to make money, but it's also we want it to be something that we're passionate about and that we enjoy. Right. So it went from being the boot camps, the gym, the meal delivery. Now we've created SWAN and we got this trademark philosophy. How do we roll this out? And also help more people because we realized we knew we didn't want to do individual training. Right. We knew we didn't want to do group training. Right. But how do we help the masses and more like generational health or populations? And we're speaking at schools. We're getting invited to do more things as subject matter experts. And that opened the door for us to get into corporate wellness. Yes.
And to that point, just quickly going back to the boot camps, that's when we had a lot of employees that were from the airport. They were coming to our boot camps, and our first client was actually from the airport. Her name is Maricela. She is absolutely incredible. We love her so much. She lost 80 pounds in 1 year. Absolutely, it was the transformation was incredible. I remember we were sitting down with her. We're sitting right across the terminal. We're sitting in as if we're like at a gate. And we're just going over like a quick meal plan with her. And she asked me, what is a carbohydrate? And I remember thinking to myself, okay, this is another reminder for me on how important nutrition is, but how many people don't know the basics of nutrition. And that just turned into, okay, well then Chella is now making this incredible transformation. Her 2 sons are making incredible transformation. This is at the time. Her 2 sons were making incredible transformation. They're hiking Camelback Mountain. Yeah. They're drinking water. She has, she never had avocado before. She was having avocado in all of her salads. And so those were the people that originally were coming to the boot camps. Those were our first clients. And that transformed into, okay, well, we were essentially doing corporate wellness or employee wellness. We just didn't know at the time. And so when it transitioned into 2018, right? 2018 and early 2019, that's when we got into corporate wellness. And we said, okay, let's, like you said, let's reach the masses. We're already we're posting on social media. So people are seeing what we're doing and they're asking us about, they're asking us questions. Can you guys host webinars? Can you come into these speaking engagements? And we had a pilot at a nonprofit in Tempe, Arizona. Go ahead.
I didn't want to cut you off, but before we get to the nonprofit, something I just wanted to mention was our first nonprofit was our church. And it's just a reminder for me, our home church at the time. But just finding, a lot of times when you start a business, people are like, oh, where are all the customers? Like, where's all this business at? Where's everybody? And a lot of times it starts with the people that you know. It's your inner circle. And just us, I'm thinking about, like, we always were giving back in that servant mindset, because before we got more opportunities with like a bigger nonprofit, we literally were just serving where we could, helping out at our church, doing speaking engagement at our home church at the time, being able to, like, we're literally doing, relationship and marriage, like boot camps and sessions. People are in tears. People at the church are losing weight and having transformations, diabetes. People are getting, like, it just was so many elements where people were improving all of their health metrics. And that felt really exciting for us. So like the transformation element was what we really loved. Not necessarily having to like do the whole program, but it was like really
you're seeing people's lives change right in front of you. And then you're seeing the trickle down, which that's why you always hear us say, creating generational health, because that is our mission, is to do that. And so we saw that firsthand, like we said, Chella with her 2 sons, and then the families that were at the church, you're seeing their kids. Because again, when the parents are happier, the whole situation is just better and everyone feels like it's a safe space. And actually back to 2018, that's when we had our first trade show at Kadima Ventures. And just to tell you, we've never done a trade show before. The trials and tribulations. Whoa. We had to go to rent a center.
Oh, man. We
had to rent 2 TVs. Don't have money for it. Really, we're just putting it on our credit cards at the time. We had 2 TVs from Rent a Center. We're setting up this entire booth. And it was an absolutely incredible experience. We actually met some really wonderful people that we've worked with since then. One of them being Nominally, they hosted our app that we have. That's how we brought, quote unquote, our SWAN to life, was through our CoupleyFit app, because that led into 2019 with the church. People were using the app. Our pastor lost 40 pounds. People were making incredible transformations. Our boot camps that we used to host there, we used to have probably 30 plus people come. I was speaking at Women of Wisdom. You were speaking to the men and just telling people that, about SWAN and CoupleyFit and the 2 can do it. People were loving it and just saying like, oh my gosh, you guys have to continue to do this. Like, don't stop. So we were getting that positive affirmation and reinforcement from others. But then we said, okay, let's go a little bit bigger. Let's go to corporate wellness. That's when we went into the nonprofit in Tempe. We did a 3-month pilot. Yes.
No, I wanted you to keep going on this, because I was just thinking about something before that, because this is when we basically pivoted to both being 100% full time.
That's right. That was in 2018. That was April 2018.
Which was a whole thing, because, at the time, right, you were working your job in food and beverage. I'm still in the family business, which I put in like 5 years now, and was supposed to like carry that and take and continue to like lead that and be almost the face. And I was like, well, wait a minute. I'd much rather be the face of CoupleyFit and us do this together and do our thing, which anybody that's in family business, there's a lot of dynamics. There's a lot of people.
I was also working in the business
Dee's working
as well.
in the business too. So adding into the mix of us starting a business, us being newly married, my family can be very dominating in a lot of ways. Just like naturally it could be about us and the business and all of these things. And Deanna's now in and she's in the business. And so thinking about that, we went through that journey in 2018 of, having some really candid, critical conversations. But one of them led to us essentially putting in our 2 weeks and saying, we're going to double down and do CoupleyFit full time. And I will say it was one of the best decisions, but it also was like such a pivotal moment. And looking back, right, you would typically be like, man, I wish we'd have more savings and, you know, more contracts, more money coming in before you make a move like that and leave your steady Freddy or your main job. That's a big step. And so that's just something I wanted to bring up because we had that happen before nonprofit, going into a organization, all of this. Like, we really took that leap and had that faith, but it also was a tremendous risk because now we go from having two incomes. And with the business, what you're investing, what you're doing is in addition to that, where, you know, there's months where you're investing more and you lost money this month and you're making sacrifices. You're not maybe taking that vacation, or you're not going out to eat, or you're not doing some of the things. I know there was, like, we had people that got mad at us, even friends, when we had to say, like, yo, we can't go to your bachelor or bachelorette party. 2019. Yeah, we can't go to your bachelor or bachelorette party because the money's funny, right? And
that, well, yeah, and we also, it was like work. We literally have RFPs out right now. We have to work. Like, we are in a situation where we have to catch what we eat, and it's not just one of us; it's both of us. And so, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say we had just this moment that was so big that gave us the confidence also to be able to step out and do it on our own, which was being invited into one of the largest rideshare company, you know, in the country, being invited in there, being able to present, being offered a contract, a significant contract that's like game changing for a small business. Yeah. But it also six-figure contract. And I'm gonna be honest, your boy was ready to. I don't need to read anything. I don't need to read anything. Where's the pen?
Show me the money. But meanwhile, at this time, this is also when you have to think about, what is your business going to stand for? Yeah. And then also, that is a reflection of, we were co-founders. That's a reflection of us. So what do we stand for? So at this time, when we're in this ride sharing company, there was, number one, the automated cars at that time were brand new. Like, they were just kind of getting on the road. There was, unfortunately, one of these cars killed somebody in Tempe on Mill Avenue. Okay. There was that. Then there was the CEO was sexually harassing women that were working for him, and amongst some other things. And they just moved him from being CEO to still being on the board of directors, where he still has a say. Yes. And so for me, I said, I'm not going to stand for that. As a woman, I can't get behind a company that's doing that. And you and a couple of other people were like, Deanna, you're bugging. Like, you're losing out on money. What are you doing? And I thought to myself, what do we stand for? If this was us and if this was our business, are we standing for that? Absolutely not. So that was one deal that we did not take, because it's a dirty deal in my opinion, and you do not have to take dirty deals. Not all money is good money. And I will say this was
also one of my contacts that had made the introduction, and I'm having to make this phone call, and they're literally looking at me like we're crazy. I remember being on the phone and saying, we're not taking a contract, we're not going to sign. They literally were like, it was as if you turned down the lotto. Like, you won the lotto, literally. And you're saying, like, I don't want the ticket. It's how they, like, literally looked at us.
You're crazy.
You're crazy. Yeah. And that opened the door, like, that did, like, every action or decision has a reaction, because a lot of people, not a lot of people, most people would take the money, right? And I was on that note of, like, man, where do I sign? You made the right decision, right? And going very focused on.
It's a hard decision.
It's the hard decision. And to that point, the hard decision had some hard consequences, because if we would have locked in that contract, six-figure contract, we're growing. We maybe had more investment. We were
supposed to go into Chicago and go to their flagship location. We were supposed to go to like 2 other locations. We were set for almost a 3-year contract.
Yeah, basically, like, y'all won't need other.
You guys don't need any other contract. Else. Like, you're only going to be the wellness for this rideshare company. And so we thought that's incredible. What an amazing opportunity. But again, it's a dirty deal in my opinion.
Yeah, and so with that decision, the consequence of that, and I'm thinking about us getting into before working with the nonprofits, because also you're working with nonprofits, it's not like you're getting huge contracts, or people are not offering 6-figure contracts every day. And so a little bit, maybe in my mind, I'm thinking I was a little naive, because when you have this early success, it's almost like someone that, like, goes to the pros. If your first contract's $1 million, like, at 21, the rest of your life, you're like, oh, there's $1 million contracts, right? Like, this is what it's like forever. And it's like, no, like, that was a 1 in a million situation, or like that's very rare. And that was for me. I'm like, oh, confidence. Same guy that's sending all the pictures to you after we met. I'm like, oh, well, if they offered us a 6-figure contract,
oh yeah,
they out here like this. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, don't forget, I think it was 2000 so when we did corporate wellness, that was 2019. Like end of 2018. Beginning of 2019, we had 12 RFPs out.
Yeah. And
if you don't know what an RFP is, it's a request for proposal. One of them was for the city of Phoenix.
Yeah, like huge.
Like, we're talking once in a lifetime opportunities that we were having where it made sense for us to leave the situation that we were in. But you don't realize how much not only red tape there is, how much you have to, there's levels. Like if you're not talking to the actual decision maker, you have to go through maybe 3, 4, 5 people just to get to the decision maker. By that time, it might be 4, 5, 6 months. And then it's like, oh, shoot, we have not been paid. What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
And that's the side of entrepreneurship that nobody talks about. You just see on Instagram, right? It's lit and you're making money, your business is successful, go from, $1,000 to $1 million, to $10,000 in 1 month. And that wasn't the case for us. Like we really went through some real challenges. Like I think about, we went to the nonprofit and rolled out a program there, incredible results at that organization, transformative with SWAN and everything.
That's how we proved
the church,
SWAN.
right? How we proved it out, and then got recognized by South by Southwest as one of the top startups. But what was crazy in that journey in 2019 and that lesson for us was we went through some really serious hardships. That was one of our hardest years. That 2018, 2019, I mean, I'm talking about, we were talking about it earlier. I mean, the sound of anytime you heard like a truck, that was like a serious truck, the feeling and the chill of like, that's a tow truck coming to get our car because we're behind on our car payment. Like that going through, but you're presenting a company.
Car payments, you're behind on mortgage. We're still paying like the lights and the electricity and those things, but we're behind on
things were
most of our bills.
It was so bad. And for me as a husband too, because like we're business partners, right? But it's not just like business partners. We go home to separate houses and it's like, oh, deal with the business tomorrow. It's like, how does that impact and like overcome into the personal where like, I know for me, confidence was like getting a little bit shot because I'm like, man, I'm used to football, high performer, we had this contract, we end up turning it down. Now we're struggling financially. Like, and I feel like I just left this family business. We bet on ourselves and I feel like I'm losing. Like, I feel like we're losing right now, not with the opportunity, not with the lessons, not with the like $1 million and really even more than that of like money that we're getting in wisdom and experience. But it was like, man, our accounts are in the negative $200.
Yeah.
Like something just got pulled and pulling up at the gas station, putting my card in and literally accounts so far in the negative, they won't even go in the negative anymore. They're just like, you can't get gas.
Yeah, you just
can't. Like,
we're going to shut your car down.
You know what I mean? And driving Uber and things like that to like, in the meantime, to stay afloat, to keep the business alive, but having the belief as well.
Yes. And so in 2019, that's when we actually had the opportunity from South by Southwest, which if you know about them, they're absolutely incredible. They have about 75,000 people annually that come to their event. Yes, it's like a music festival and those things, but they also have something called a startup spotlight. So it's the top 30 startups in the world that get invited to come there. We were invited to come because of the work that we did in corporate wellness. And we literally 2 weeks before, because we said we can't go. Like, we literally do not have the money to go. So then we were talking to Sierra. She's a real one. We love her so much. We were talking to our friend Sierra. She said, you guys, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
You don't realize how big this is.
You have to go. So we crowdfunded for 2 weeks. Shout out to every single person that donated to our GoFundMe. Y'all were the real ones. I can't even tell you how much you guys mean to us. You all are the OGs of CoupleyFit. You guys helped us tremendously. So we got to South by Southwest. Everyone that is there has money to have somebody set up their booths. We're in there with Amazon boxes. We're cutting the boxes. We're assembling everything. And the work that went into that, we're going to have to even just talk about that on a separate episode, because that was for me, I was not only so overwhelmed, I was overstimulated. I was worried about finances. I'm like, I didn't shut down, but if I would have shut down, I would have been done. It was that type of thing. Like I have a choice right now. And that goes back to the resilience of not only being an athlete and then being a server, right? And those things where you have to just keep going.
Yeah.
And we did that. We got invited to an incredible dinner. Do you remember that?
We're surrounded by like billionaires.
Yeah, we're like surrounded by billionaires. Literally, we're sitting at a table with billionaires. That was the wildest. It was the wildest thing. And then we go home after this, and we pull up. An Uber is taking us there. We pull up to our house, and we were like, "Is that what?
Is that HOA? Is that HOA?
Yeah,
is
like
the grass
there's a piece of paper on our front door, and I'm like, "What is that?" We get closer. It's a pre-foreclosure paper saying you guys have 6 months before we take your house. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it's getting real.
And to your point, that was so real. And in addition to that, I think about that wasn't even the lowest low, because we came off the high of the South by Southwest, but then trying to get yourself out of that and you feel like you're in a hole. Like I would probably say one of my lowest lows was, going into the pawn shop, man, I had my gold chain.
And we're coming up on the end of the episode, so I think we're going to have to do a part 2. But yeah, the pawn shop was something.
That was probably one of the hardest, because we were like literally we're at a place where I'd had a gold chain that is literally resembled after my grandfather's. So it's like an identical, and the money that I spent had pawned it. Gifts.
Yeah, it got
earrings.
to a,
it was like
we pawned diamond
my
earrings.
my entire sneaker collection, which I'm like a sneakerhead. All my sneakers were sold.
All of my designer bags, all of my designer heels and shoes, everything.
Sold my car.
Sold.
We're down to one car.
We're down to one car. But then also, I remember we had the conversation. I said, babe, I just want to let you know that if we have to do this, I don't want to, but if we have to do this, I will, whether we sell my ring or pawn the ring, whatever that looks like, just to be able so that we can continue to move forward. Because we also knew we couldn't go back into the situation that we were in. So we knew, like, to stay afloat, if I have to sell, or we have to sell our diamond ring, then that's what we're going to have to do.
Yeah, that was the lowest low for me. And I'm so glad that we shared that too, because we don't really tell anybody about.
That almost makes me tear up, because that was like a really hard conversation to have.
Yeah, that was probably one of the hardest.
Like your ring, like this is what, is how we started CoupleyFit, was we're married and it's couples and this is what we're about. And now we're talking about selling our rings.
Yeah, and for me, it felt like I was failing, like as a provider, as a partner, all of those things. But I'm so grateful, because in those moments, I knew how blessed I was in having you as my spouse, because even when my confidence was shaken, even when I was down and out, I'm like, man, I feel like a bum. Like I literally have negative money. No, I don't have no money. Like I'm negative.
Yeah.
Like we're splitting a fry in and out now. We used to go and like, we're going out to nice restaurants. We're at the club, whatever. It was just crazy to be in this reality, but to be in it together and to know that even when we're down to our very last, and even if we have nothing, we still have something because we have each other and we're together. That was what meant more than anything else. And I think that's what is the reason why no matter where we pivot, where we go, CoupleyFit was going to be successful, but also we're going to be successful because love is at the foundation. Faith is at the foundation, right? We are servant leaders and we've been selfless and we've made it about helping other people in generational health. So it's like, how can we truly lose? And the material things, it ended up being a blessing, because I'm glad you kept your ring. We didn't get rid of it.
Yeah, we didn't.
But everything else is like, I could go buy Jordans again.
Yeah.
I didn't buy another chain, but it's just like, did I really need?
And
it's perspective.
I'm not a material person anyways, so all of that can go. I could care less about any of that. That's not something. I rather have us. I rather have our foundation and have us. And we are gonna have to absolutely do a part 2. We're gonna wrap this episode up. We're only in 2019, so you can imagine from 2019 to 2025. So we will absolutely do a part 2. We just want to say thank you so much, CoupleyFit fam, for watching another episode. As always, please find us on YouTube at CoupleyFit. Please like, subscribe, share also if you need to share this with maybe an entrepreneurial friend or somebody who is just starting out, who maybe needs a little bit of motivation, and know that if you are having a low, the highs will come. And then also please follow us on social media at CoupleyFit, CoupleyFit. Thanks.